Hello and welcome to my second video, guys. Here we are. It's actually been a long time coming. I've actually recorded a lot of things, but I felt like I couldn't continue to share until I made this specific video. And I was just kind of hung up on this idea for the video because I didn't want it to just be like a sit down and talk through just so much content that I want to share. So I decided, why not make a deck and almost make this like a presentation. This is what I do for work all the time, and so it felt comfortable and it felt like a fun creative outlet for me on how to execute kind of my concept for this video. So let's get into it. This video is called I Turned 29 and Changed Everything About My Life. I guess we should start with the who. I'm Iruna. I'm 29 years old, as the title shared, and I have lived in Atlanta for most of my life. I was born in Romania, and my family and I immigrated to the States when I was 5 years old. So since then, I've been a true Atlanta girl. I've lived here since I was 5, with a very short stint in Hong Kong, actually. I studied abroad there for about a quarter. There have been a couple of different instances where I almost moved, both like post-grad type of opportunities where either I had the job and I thought I was going to end up moving for the job, or I was really close in a interview process. So for a second I always thought I was going to move to LA, and then there was a period where I thought I was going to move to Austin, but none of those things ended up happening. And so Atlanta just kept feeling like the right place to be and the right place to stay. And then fast forward to 2019 is when I started dating Gray. And he had also had the same story where he had lived in Atlanta his whole life. He went to college in Athens, Georgia, but then moved back to the city after college. And we actually worked together, and that's how we ended up dating. And yeah, so that was 2019. We got married in 2022, and we traveled a lot. So I worked for an airline at the time, and so I had free tickets, like standby tickets, and so we traveled all the freaking time. We traveled a lot too because I always had this like notion that we weren't gonna have the flight benefits forever, and so we just wanted to really make the best of them and use them as much as we could, and so we were constantly gone. And last year in 2024, we did the Tour de Mont Blanc, and then we went to Italy with friends, and then we landed in Nice. And this was the last kind of stop before we were heading home. And we were sitting at this fish bar, and we were, really tired and weary, and kind of, how travel kind of takes it out of you at the end. And we were just talking about how we just had this desire to be integrated into a new space. Like we had this desire to move, and we were kind of using travel as a way to like fulfill that desire. But those two things aren't synonymous. Like travel is really exhausting, and moving somewhere new is also exhausting. But we had this desire to integrate ourselves into a place instead of just like experiencing kind of from the sidelines a place. So we kind of felt this pull at that time to move somewhere, and we were like, is this next year like the right time? Like, is this next year right? So that was kind of like the question and the sense and the feeling that we were having. And then fast forward a couple of weeks, we were celebrating our anniversary at Lucian Books and Wine. It's this restaurant in Atlanta. And I came up with this question where I was like, great, if you could move anywhere in the world for 3 months out of the time to 4 different places in 1 year, where would you be? And so we just kind of like started toying around with these different places, and like why we would want to do one place and why we'd want to do another, and like what season of the year would we want to live there. So that's where our idea was born, of taking 1 year and spending 3 months in 4 different cities. So these are the places that we landed on: New York City, Colorado, Los Angeles, and Copenhagen. Why, you may ask? Why do this now? why, period. So Gray and I, we got married in 2022, and our lives were already so seamlessly like integrated into each other, which was so beautiful, that like after we got married, we just like hit the ground running with our life, almost like nothing had changed. You know, our jobs stayed the same, like our friends were all there, and life just got so busy. And it was almost like we never kind of got the chance to define life fully and make these choices for ourselves as a married couple. And we had this desire to almost go away and define that, just him and I. And that was something that was going to be hard to do while we were in Atlanta, just because so much of our life was already there and already kind of defined in a lot of ways. So yeah, we just had this desire to kind of like go away and figure things out and figure life on our own, just the two of us. And along with that, we also both just have always had this desire to move somewhere else. And it did kind of feel, I know that I don't like to view life this way, but it did have this kind of like now or never to it, of like, this is just the perfect time. Like, we need to just freaking go for it and do it and try it out. Like, if not now, when? So you may be asking why these 4 places. New York for us is somewhere that I think has represented a lot of like our desires when it comes to our career. Like, that's just where our industry is. It felt like the Mecca. It's like the most inspiring place. And so that was kind of what has drawn us to New York. It's always been a place that we've like considered moving. So it was almost like a given that it would be on our list. And then Colorado is a place that I think represents our love for recreation, love for being outside, and that kind of part of ourselves. And then LA felt like this mix of the two, of New York and Colorado, where it's like a balance of more of like the outdoors and hiking and recreation culture, while also having like a big emphasis on our careers there. In Copenhagen, we landed on this. We went the year before and loved it. And we wanted to have one city on our tour that was in Europe. And we initially were wanting to go to London, but honestly, we just couldn't find a place there that made sense with our budget. And Copenhagen ended up just working out, and I'm so glad that it did. The next portion is the how. So we have, we actually own a home in Atlanta. And so we decided, okay, I think our first step is renting out our house and renting it out for a year. So then it's like we have no choice but to go off on our own. So we rented our house in Atlanta for a year, and that was kind of like the first step. These were the different places that we used to kind of find our homes in these different cities. Kindred is great. It's like a home swapping app, but you don't have to do direct swaps, so you can actually build up credits for a future stay. That's how we ended up finding our place in Copenhagen. Listings Project is a great site because it's mostly short-term leases or subleases, and it's usually for places that are furnished. So it's such a great platform. You find a lot of like-minded people because it is a lot of artists and designers and people that have more of like a nomadic lifestyle. And so that's how we ended up actually finding our LA place. And then Facebook, Wildcard, Facebook Marketplace sometimes works, and we actually use that for New York. And then Airbnb is definitely the more expensive route. We ended up not using it at all, but it is kind of like a good fallback if you can't figure anything else out. Those are our go-tos for finding places. And then obviously like word of mouth is really helpful too. Next big elephant in the room is jobs. This is loaded because obviously we're so privileged to be able to do this, period, but to be able to do this with still having jobs is amazing. I don't think that, I mean, maybe you could make this work, but I don't know how this plan would work for these semi-short-term stays while trying to like find a job in those places. But Gray, he works fully remote, so there was really no problem there. He just like told his team and everything was totally fine. Like nothing in his job really changed. And then for me, I was working at my previous job for the first part when I was in New York, and I was just traveling back and forth a lot. either like back to Atlanta or going to shoots. I was doing that. And I actually ended up quitting my job, which is another big kind of portion of this. So I quit my job and now I am actually full-time freelance. So I can do what I want and I can work remote. So really, really thankful for our jobs allowing us to kind of live this nomadic lifestyle this year. But yeah, more on the quitting job front in future videos too, probably. Going freelance was always something in the back of my mind and a desire that I had for many years. And it's crazy because going into this year, I wasn't even fully planning on going freelance. It was more of this like backup plan of like if things didn't work out with our plan and like me staying at my job, like I always had freelance as like my backup plan, but it ended up just feeling like the time was right. And so I went for it because again, it was almost this, if not now, when. I think it's this, I'm 29, it's my last year of being in my 20s. Like making changes is only going to get harder as you get older. And I want to try out this freelance thing. If I don't, I will always wonder. So yeah. And then last kind of little tidbit is settling in. Gray and I, like, we really wanted to make this feel like we were living in these places. Like we didn't want to just feel like we're visiting. And so we've made it a big point to feel super settled super quickly because we are only there for 3 months. And so in each place so far that we've been in, we like immediately get a gym membership. We figure out like our grocery store, where the post office is, like figuring out like our method of transportation. Like in Copenhagen, we rented bikes and had those long term. In New York, we took the subway, obviously. But we had our car in New York too, which was funny. But yeah, so we had this like, have this high emphasis in like, let's settle in as quickly as we can to be able to really feel like we're living here for the time and make the most of it. So that's been like a big thing. That is really it for this video. I feel like there's so much more that I could cover with it. I wanted to give just more of like a glimpse into how this year has been so far before I continue to share videos that I've been creating. So I want to like go into more detail with these things, but if you guys have any questions, I would be happy to answer in future videos, like getting more into like the nitty gritty details of things instead of at this like high level. But yeah, we're at like our halfway mark right now. It's a halftime show. So we were in New York for 3 months, April, May, June, and then we were in Copenhagen, July, August, September, and now we're spending a couple of weeks in Atlanta before we go to LA. It's the halfway mark, which is crazy because honestly, it feels like it's been a year. Like it's crazy that it's only been 6 months. We have so much more time to explore, which is exciting. Who freaking knows what's gonna happen the rest of the year. That's about it for this video. Would love for you guys to follow along, and yeah, we'll talk in the next one.